It's incredibly difficult to find an individual that's contributed as much to DC Comics and The Flash over the past couple decades like author Mark Waid has. Mark Waid has had such a kind of legendary career over at DC Comics. I even had the chance earlier this year to take a look at Wally West's Flash run from the early 90s DC Comics and was really taken by how well writer Mark Waid and artist Greg LaRocque was able to flesh out Wally West as an individual character as opposed to just an extension of the Flash family. So when I heard that Mark Waid was going to go ahead and end the Dark Crisis one-shots with Dark Crisis Big Bang, I was incredibly excited to see what he had to offer. My name is Arco Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and dive deep into one of the final tie-ins for Dark Crisis Big Bang #1. But before we get any deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce the solicitation text for the issue so you can get some understanding of the premise behind the title. After the monumental events of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths 4, Pariah has successfully resurrected the infinite multiverse, and all of reality is still reeling from the event. Dark Crisis Big Bang #1 is a haunting journey through these newly reformed realities, from the Justice League to DC Mech, from Dark Knights of Steel to Batman 89 and back again, in a guest-star-galore, all-new epic by comics legend and DC architect Mark Waid. Next, we need to introduce the creative team. This issue is written by Mark Waid. We have art from Dan Jurgens and Norm Rapmund, colors from Federico Blee, letters from Troy Peteri, and we have a cover from Mikel Janin. In fact, I want to go ahead and show off the cover that Mikel Janin contributed to the issue right now. The Superman side of things teases the Dark Knights of Steel universe, and just the idea of having so many different multiverses, usually ones that were more recently formed over in the space of DC Comics, gives this issue something a little special, something a little bit off the beaten path to get excited about. Also, I have to hand it to DC. DC has been publishing so many kind of ancillary miniseries like Jurassic League, Batman 89, DC Mech, Dark Knights of Steel, and to have them converge into kind of one issue of comics is a really, really great idea. And I'm glad that Mark Waid had the opportunity to kind of go ahead and flesh this out along with Dan Jurgens and Norm Rapmund. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the art for this issue by Jurgens and Rapmund. I really enjoyed how much this comic had such a retro aesthetic. I really think that this will kind of get the interest of fans that have been devoted to the Flash property from kind of decades past. It's incredibly just kind of reassuring to see how we pull on so many threads from Crisis on Infinite Earths throughout this issue. And just the fact that Dan Jurgens has been working at DC for so long makes this issue feel so much more authentic. I love the way that, each page is really super bombastically laid out, but that the characters always kind of stick out, from the coloring or the presentation of the issue. And I really like how clear, all the figures are across each of the pages. I really think that, Jurgens and Rapmund do a great job fleshing out these characters with the more retro aesthetic. And it's just great to see Jurgens kind of mold all these different universes and synthesize them, into one comic. There's an incredible amount of characters over on the comic book page. It's really great to see that we're still working kind of in this context, and that Jurgens and Rapmund are still contributing to the DC Comics universe to tell stories like this. From a writing standpoint, this issue was an absolute joy to read. It essentially features Barry taking a tour through the different multiverses to stop the Anti-Monitor. And really, this gives kind of an excuse for Dan Jurgens and Norm Rapmund to go absolutely crazy in getting as many characters as they can on the page. but that sense of really kind of settled characterization between people like Wallace and Barry that was present, you know, in Waid's Flash work from the 90s is still here and still kind of has that same sense of pathos. You know, watching Barry get the opportunity to kind of mentor the next generation of Flash characters coming after Wally is just a wonderful character beat that I think Waid was able to synthesize, you know, just right throughout this issue. I think that the characterization in writing here really does a great job, you know, getting readers interested in the end of Dark Crisis, you know, giving some strong characterization for Barry and showing how all these different DC concepts can be synthesized into one issue. And this issue does such a great job with Easter eggs, even extending beyond the realm of DC's different universes that they created. You know, there's references to Multiversity. There's just so many comics. I see some, you know, nods here to Gotham by Gaslight, as well as, you know, titles that DC has introduced in the past. So if you're a big kind of multiverse fan, if you're a big DC fan, if you're, you know, following all the plot threads that got us started in Infinite Crisis, I think you're going to have an absolute blast, you know, heading into this Dark Crisis finale. So I think that about does it for this review. I had a really wonderful job getting to know Barry Allen again in this more traditional DC context. I think DC should publish more comic books like this with an aesthetic that calls back to earlier decades when DC was producing content that had a much lighter tone. Also, I would like to see, you know, Mark Waid return to The Flash or tell a DC story with this lighter aesthetic, because I think some of Mark Waid's solo projects like Batman vs. Robin have been a little bit too dark. So I want to know from you guys, did you enjoy this final Dark Crisis tie-in, Dark Crisis Big Bang #1? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to check out the video today. We'll be back very soon with more excellent comic book content. Thank you so much. Bye.